This is a V-Ray lesson using Revit 2024 and importing a SketchUp context model using City of Boston block 3D representations that are posted on the Boston uh, uh, Development Authority website. So let's choose that screen. Get me out of the way here and talk about what it is that we're looking at here. So here's a model of H Street. This one, there's a couple of them here. This one has the building context in the background. That's not important right now. What I want to talk about is materials, and most of what makes Enscape and Revit materials stand out are by using the actual Enscape or Revit or V-Ray supplied material. So this brick is kind of unsightly. Let's improve the resolution of this. Let's increase the resolution to, I don't know, 2400 pixels. Oops. Wide. Assuming you guys are familiar with these functions. If not, you can look at some of the other videos. Talk about that. Let's redo this render. We have this set to use the video card, which is a setting in Revit that you can tick off in Revit settings once it releases me from that time hold. I'll show you. Most of these drawings should not take more than 10 minutes to do. There's a myth that if you spend 20 hours or leave it rendering over a weekend, you'll have an improved product. The fact is, you don't need more than 10 minutes to do any kind of rendering. You just need to be smart about arranging it, going about setting it up. Okay, so the Revit data is exported. It is now executing this. And you can see this brick is not terribly attractive. Right? You have a little bit of sunlight on the metal there. Now we're 3.5 minutes into this video. Remember my 10-minute rule. Okay, this is still rendering. It's about past 216, 98% done, 99% done. %100% render completed. This happened within 3 minutes. Okay, it is not extraordinary by any means. There's a number of things we need still to do to blend in texture maps, to get a surface texture for the metal, right? You know, the little dimples that you see in the folded metal panel, vertical or horizontal, depending on the layout, but the seams and all that stuff, none of that stuff is blended in. This is just a base coat of material that's native to Revit. Now what we're going to do is change the brick to one that we really, really like in V-Ray. If you go to Manage and you click on the materials palette that comes with Revit architecture, it invokes this clunky editor that allows you to scroll down and find what we're using for brick. It's this common red brick. So Revit V-Ray is trying to render this brick, and that's the best job that it can do with it. But you want something different. You want to invoke the V-Ray asset editor. Is it drawing that off screen? Let's see. We have to find a material, so let's see where these guys are. There's a V-Ray Appearance Manager, right? Okay, so in order to change that brick, I have to scroll down, and now what it's listing here are the materials that come with Revit. It's important to understand this. If I go to Manage Materials in Revit, it gives me the Revit right and left. On my right is my Revit native stuff. So if I scroll down to approximately the same, it's arranged alphabetically, or at least they're sorted alphabetically right now. Analytical surface, sliding doors, underground wall, exterior, interior. Okay, it's not quite alphabetical, but let's scroll down to brick, common red. Okay, here's a Revit material that it's trying to render. Here's what V-Ray is mapping to, and it isn't mapping to anything right now. But if I want to map to a V-Ray material, I move the mouse over it and read what it says there. There's a context message. Left click assigns V-Ray material or restores the last one assigned. Right click opens V-Ray assets drop down. So let's try first. Okay, let's first, because I have loaded these before. Let's left click. I don't want to take too long with this. So in Chaos, you can search for materials. Let's try one more time to do that. Close this palette. We'll close this. Go to V-Ray. Chaos Cosmos. Alright. This is where you find stuff to use in V-Ray. So you can search assets. I can search for entourage, for the pretty plants and stuff that we use over here. I want to browse materials, and I want to find brick. Notice it saves your recent searches, so I want to look for brick. And I really like the appearance of either this one, right? That's not bad. I'm going to import that. It's going to ask me to sign in. And it has imported that. And it's showed up here. It's highlighted. Let's go to Cosmos again. and go back, search for brick again, and choose a slightly different one, this weathered EO2, and import that one. And now you notice that it's loaded here as well. I know this is tedious, but and time consuming. But if you don't do, it's what makes V-Ray renders above and beyond everything else is the, the use of the materials library that they make available. Now what I need to do is go into the Appearance Manager. Is that what I want to do? Go down to Materials, and for the brick common red, I want to substitute the weathered brick that I found. I'm going to choose, in this case, the first one. Okay, if you don't do this, all of this material defaults to whatever Revit has stored in its material library. Sometimes you'll get lucky. Those libraries contain or are rich with the correct colors. For instance, Sherwin-Williams loads has Revit libraries of materials that are functionally very accurate in terms of paint colors and the types of paint. You can choose eggshell, satin, the different finishes. It's really out of control, the variation. Anyway, now that we've mapped Revit material to this weathered brick that we found in V-Ray, I can close all this and rerun the rendering dialog. Keep in mind that I'm trying to keep this video 12 minutes is not. It's worth it. It's not 12 minutes of work that you have to do. It's 12 minutes of paying attention and then applying what we have here. Let me get this out of the way, the V-Ray lights. We don't need to explore right now. So now Revit is working. V-Ray is working. It exported stuff. It's going to refresh. It needs to redraw that rendering buffer. Rendering buffer is that little window. There it is now. We'll talk about V-Ray lights and different